Good morning, class. Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Today is April 27. Today we will be moving on from the Enlightenment and start talking about revolutions, the first of which is actually a predominantly, mostly, basically non-violent revolution known as the Industrial Revolution, and your learning target is to explain what caused it, how it started, the origins of it. Our agenda for today: first, on Google Classroom there is a survey. You've done a similar survey before, but since the last one we have changed how this remote learning experience operates and how it's structured. We've gone to kind of a 4-day week and a Friday makeup work day. So it'll ask you some similar questions as before. I just want to see how things are going with this new format for learning that we just adopted over the past week or so. So please fill out that survey. That is due 3 p.m. today. That is just feedback for me to help you and help me figure out the best way to plan what we learn moving forward. Second thing, after you're done with that, we will be taking some notes on how the Industrial Revolution started and where, the origins of it. There will be a video clip that I will post on Google Classroom later today at 10 o'clock that you may watch if you'd like. It is optional. It's solely for review on how the Industrial Revolution started. Then the last thing you maybe want to work on today, although it's not due until Friday 3 p.m., is a quiz retake on the quiz you took last week. I will give you details at the end of this video on what that process looks like. So today's work: do the survey 3 p.m. today, have the retake if you want, if necessary. It's optional, done by this week Friday 3 p.m. So after your surveying, please do that first before you take your notes. Get a piece of paper, type it. I don't care what you do, wherever you've been keeping notes. This is on the Industrial Revolution and how it started, where it started, what caused it. A couple vocab words to know first. These will show up on a Quizlet later, so if you don't want to write this down, you don't have to. One is the word factory. The Industrial Revolution was characterized by the factory system. Factories are places where workers and machines work together to produce large amounts and quantities of goods. So you have workers, but you also are implementing machines to help those workers produce a lot of stuff. And we'll talk about what that stuff looks like later this week. Textile is a type of cloth or woven fabric. That would be one example of the stuff. Textiles is what was used to make clothes or anything else that involves cloth, mostly clothes, back in the Industrial Revolution. So first, what is the Industrial Revolution? It starts in the mid-1700s, so it's coinciding roughly with the Enlightenment, which is also taking place. In fact, the Enlightenment has a lot to do with the Industrial Revolution and other revolutions as well. This is a shift, not in thinking, not in ideas like the Enlightenment was, but a shift in how we make goods and how the economy operates. So it's a slow and steady change from a farming-based to an industry, more business-based economy. And this shift in economy stems a lot from physiocrats like Adam Smith, who are proposing a more capitalist, individual-based system of economy, which promotes individuals to come up with these inventions and machines that they're going to use during the Industrial Revolution. So we have this change in production, how goods are being produced, whether it's cloth or otherwise. We have the factory system, we have machines, and we have more focus on producing textiles from that factory system that uses machines. We have changes in what power and energy sources are being used. We have development of coal and steam, which will be much more efficient power sources than what was being used before to help fuel the factories and run the machines. Where did the Industrial Revolution begin? It begins in Britain. It makes a lot of sense since many Enlightenment ideas start in Britain as well. question is, why did it start there? And this will be the last slide of notes that we have. Why not France, which had a lot of Enlightenment thinkers? Why not places like Italy, where the Renaissance started, or Spain, which had its own golden century and its own kind of version of the Renaissance? Well, the reason why it starts in Britain is because, one, they had many natural resources. They had coal, they had iron, and they had people who were able and willing to work. This new resource of labor came from population growth. There was more people who could do the jobs necessary to fuel the Industrial Revolution. Second, we have new technologies being created and invented there. With a less strict government, there was more freedom of thought and more willingness for people to be skilled mechanics and inventors and kind of carve their own path for what they want to do with their life. They also had a strong economy. Global empire created a lot of money. For example, the colonies in the United States today gave Britain a lot of money in places like New England. And the political and social conditions existed. There was a stable government that allowed for freedom for people, and there was a strong navy. You remember, Queen Elizabeth I and Francis Drake defeated the Spanish Armada, and therefore England's navy becomes the strongest in the world. Keep in mind, this has a lot to do not just with the Enlightenment, but with absolutism. England's absolutism did not fully develop the way that other places did. That's a big cause for why the Industrial Revolution is allowed to start here, as opposed to somewhere else where there's a king or a queen or an emperor who's controlling everything. There's not enough freedom and flexibility for something like the Industrial Revolution to happen. Last thing is the religion. The Puritan Anglican religion that existed in Britain and not in other places really emphasized the value of hard work. So it's kind of a Protestant idea that England, Britain was known for at the time. So information for your quiz retake, that's all the notes that we have. You may only retake open-ended questions. I'm not going to let you retake multiple choice true or false questions when this was an open note quiz. It doesn't seem fair to allow a retake for something like that when I gave you the ability to use notes. What I'm going to ask you to do to retake this quiz for open-ended questions is to rewrite your responses on a separate Google Doc. You should have gotten an email from me over the weekend after I graded your quizzes. It should tell you the grade of the quiz as well as individual feedback that I left for those open-ended questions, and that feedback can help you rewrite it. And if you have a question about what I wrote, feel free to send me an email and ask. For those questions that are open-ended that you retake, you may get full points back for that. Just realize you can't retake the other questions that were multiple choice or true or false types of questions. This is something that if you have time, you maybe want to work on today. There's not a whole lot of work for you today, so you might want to use the extra time you have to get this done. But it is not due until Friday 3 p.m. Just share that Google Doc with me. Make sure you tell me which questions you're redoing on the Google Doc. Either rewrite the question or tell me, well, just rewrite the question. That'll be the easiest way to do it. If you have questions about any of that, please let me know, and I will talk to you more tomorrow.